everyone, welcome once again to my channel. This is IntuitiveEdge. It's time to take a look at our week ahead. Now, for this week, I want to take a look at the cards here, but before I get into that, I just want to say a few words about the week ahead. There is so much distractions in the news, and so much of what we see and hear in the news and on television is fear-based. It's all about fear. Fear this, fear that, fear the virus, fear each other, fear everything. So much of it is imposed. Part of why I like doing my week ahead is to give people maybe a sense of the energies that are coming our way or what we might be seeing playing out in the news so that things aren't a surprise. It takes a little bit of the fear-based mechanism out of it if people kind of know and understand what we might be facing. So that's a little bit of where I'm coming from and why I like doing my week ahead and month ahead videos. So speaking of fear, this week ahead, I feel I've looked at the cards, and what I feel is that there is a forced focus coming. In other words, something to get people's focus looking a new direction. Another word for that is distraction. And that's what I feel the energy is coming, is to distract people from looking at the truth or seeing what's going on, or just getting people feeling off balance or off center. And that's the other thing that fear does. Fear gets us focused back on our primal instinct of survival. And I did a video a while back about our fears and our primal instinct. You may want to go see that if you haven't. But in that, I talk about the importance of the primal fears in terms of the destructive powers that be. They use humanity's primal fears. They use those fears against us as a control mechanism. And I think that's going to be playing out somehow this week. Okay, so back to the week ahead. What I saw was, when I first tuned into the week, before I pulled any cards, I was drawn in my mind's eye on a map over to Myanmar area. I think it's Myanmar. It was like I was going over in my mind's eye. I was seeing like the Philippines, Indonesia, and I kept kind of being pulled that direction from where I'm at on the west coast of the United States, going that direction toward India. And it was like not quite India, but, and so I went and got a map because I'm like, where am I looking? And so I was able to look, and I think I'm honing in on Myanmar. And I also felt a China connection. So I don't know if there is a big distraction coming or something that's going to be maybe producing fear or something regarding Myanmar. I know they've been a lot in the news, but also China coming in. I don't know if China's going to pull any shenanigans with respect to Myanmar. I'm not sure on that, but just we may be seeing something in the news with regard to Myanmar, maybe more prominently in the news, and possibly related to China as well. Okay, so I did my spread. I've got my 7-card spread here. So what I've got in the news is a messenger card. We've got the Sky Kitten, and this is a card. You'll see this little kitten here. He's going along. He's chasing the ribbon. He's frolicking around. And I feel like there's some interesting developments that are going to be seen in the news. Some really fascinating things. And not all of them are bad. It feels like there's some good things that are going to be coming up. But the next card out is what the distraction is. And it's actually interesting because it presents a roadblock to the first card. The energy of the first card, this kitten is jumping up and kind of going, looking at what's happening. And then there's this card that comes up and kind of stands in its way. And this mound, this kitty's up on a hill. And the other cat, the way the cards are laid out, and I'll show that to you at the end. But this little kitten, this kitten here, is basically running into this hill or this mound or this roadblock, I'll put it. And that is a forced distraction. So there's something coming out. This black cat is looking directly back at this other kitten, kind of challenging it. And it feels like a forced distraction. Now, the number 2 could be symbolic of something. It may mean something, it may not. In other words, maybe there could be 2 things in the news that are maybe pitted against each other. But there's some type of roadblock coming to some good news, some discovery, something that's interesting. And there's a roadblock distraction energy that's kind of hitting it. So the next card out is on the real focus. Where should our focus be? And I've got the Hanged Man. This is called the floating cat in this deck, in my cat deck here. But this cat is kind of floating upside down. This is about upending the status quo. It's about getting to the truth, turning the tables, seeing things clearly for what they are, and being responsible for yourself. I wrote it down in my notes here. March to your own drum and do not be led by the Pied Piper. So this is about not allowing those distractions to get your focus off of what is most important, or of what the truth is. And it feels like this distraction that's coming in is wanting to take people's eyes off, and oh, look over here, and you don't really need to look at that anymore because this is more important. So this energy of the floating cat is about not listening to the voices of distraction and being true to yourself, being true to the truth, and looking for the truth in spite of the distractions going on around us. So what's going on behind the scenes this week? Well, I've got this card. This is the 8 of C. It's the 8 of Cups in tarot. Now, you'll see this cat here is kind of looking at this other metamorphosis of this other cat that looks like it's coming out of a fish or turning out from a fish or kind of changing shape or something like that. I take it as like this is a card of like a sad ending, but I take it as like a transition. Being in a transitional phase, moving from solid to vapor, moving from life to afterlife can signify death, but it's moving and transitioning from one phase to another. And that is what's going on behind the scenes. So there's some essence of perhaps a death. If you saw my month ahead, you might have seen that. I did see something like literal possible death around possible world leaders. But there's this energy of transition behind the scenes. And this thing, I'm just looking at this again. This little cat here with that shell thing in the background, it almost looks like a stage, like a performance, like a little tiny theater out on the beach there. And it makes me wonder if this is what's really behind the stage, behind the set, behind the movie, what's really going on. And so what's really going on is some type of transition, change, or loss. Okay, obstacles to overcome. Now, this is interesting. We have the 5 of C. This is the 5 of Cups. This is another card of kind of a sad loss type of card. But interesting with the artwork and going with this theme of not being distracted by the forced distractions. But when I was looking at this card, is you see this cat here, and cats generally do not like water, generally. Now, I know there's exceptions to the rule. There's probably somebody's grandma's, sister's, aunt's cat out there that loves water, okay? But generally, cats don't. They don't like to fall in pools. They don't like the water. And so, but what I saw with this, and this falls on the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the obstacle to overcome. The obstacle to overcome and the caution for this week is, what I got is, don't fall for it. Don't fall in. Don't be like this cat that falls in the pool. Don't fall for it. So there's something about this week that feels put on, made up, and a forced distraction. So that's the message of the obstacle in overcoming it, is to just not fall for it. Okay. Now, the next card, number 6, the path forward in the future. We have this card. This is the Hermit card. And this is about introspection, looking within. The key to finding out about the greater world around us is to look within. It's kind of like as above, so below. We look without, we look within. To understand the universe, you have to understand the atom. So it's all about the microcosm, the macrocosm, and this is about looking within. And this is also where you find your strength to be true to yourself, is when you look within and you're not distracted because you're connected to the source, the truth. Okay? The lesson for this week, we have this card, the card of fighting. This is the 5 of fire, 5 of wands. This card is about struggle, conflict. Now, I think I've said this in a previous video, but I guess it bears mentioning again here. And that is that so much of what we see playing out in the news and the distractions and all of the fear-based news reporting that we see, it's basically all about divide and conquer. Pitting one side against the other, young against old, white against non-white, vaxxed against unvaxxed, as I mentioned in a previous video. But it's all about pitting people and pitting sides and division. And that's the lesson this week, is to kind of pull back the curtain and not fall for the distraction and not fall for this forced narrative of, we want you fighting with this person over here or this group over here. But it's looking behind the curtain and seeing who the real enemy is, who the real mastermind is, and being like this, upending the status quo, being true to yourself, following the truth and not the lies and not the distractions, and especially not the division. You know, that the saying divide and conquer isn't just a catchphrase. That's a real thing. You get people distracted and busy fighting each other, and it's easy to just run roughshod over the entire group because nobody's focused on what they should be focused on. And that's what I feel this week is all about. There's going to be things coming up and other things that are going to seem much more important. But are they really? I mean, if a certain celebrity passes away, yes, that may be sad or may take our focus in the news for a day, but is it really important? You know, when they have these state funerals that go on for, weeks, and, yes, it's sad, things like that, but is it really? There's other things going on in the world too, and to me, I'm just sensing some type of distraction. So that's what I get for this week. We also have this card underneath, which is getting the upper hand, but having to kind of wade through a tricky situation. So we may see some kind of delicate things possibly happen this week that challenge people to maybe look at the world differently. maybe challenging the status quo. I'm getting that quite a bit too with that floating cat. This is about coming into the truth and not allowing ourselves to be distracted forcefully onto things that really don't matter in the big picture of things. So that's what I've got for this week. I hope that made sense. I hope I didn't sound too preachy there, but that's what's coming to me really strong for this week. So I think that's all I've got. I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for spending a few moments with me, and that's what I got. So if you'd like to join me for a peek at your week, over on Patreon, I do a type of a mini reading for my patrons over there, where I do more specific getting into what lies in store for people's weeks in particular. So if you'd like to join me over there, feel free to check that out. I'll leave the link in the description. Anyway, that's all I've got for this week ahead. I hope you all are doing well, and we will catch you next time. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.